I've got some big news. The U.S. has officially blacklisted CATL, the world's largest battery manufacturer, and this marks a significant escalation in tensions between the U.S. and China. This bold move zeroes in on a company that powers vehicles for major automakers like Tesla, Ford, and GM, and supplies more than a third of the global battery market. The stated reason? Alleged ties to China's military. But here's the thing, the US decision to blacklist CATL could carry huge implications for both American automakers and everyday consumers. Is this truly about national security, or is the US risking its own interests by targeting such a key player? I want to unpack what's happening and why it matters. The U.S. Department of Defense recently placed CATL on its military blacklist, along with other Chinese firms. It's happening because of worries about Chinese laws that demand companies hand over data to the government. U.S. officials say CATL's supposed links to China's People's Liberation Army pose a threat to national security. Now, CATL has pushed back against these claims, saying it operates independently from Beijing. In fact, the Chinese government has even criticized CATL for monopolizing the battery market. Still, this Pentagon move lines up with a broader strategy to limit China's sway in key sectors like semiconductors, AI, and yes, batteries. By blacklisting CATL, the US might discourage its own companies from dealing with them. But here's the twist. CATL is a top battery supplier for Tesla, Ford, and GM, companies that rely on CATL's cost-effective, high-performance batteries to stay competitive in the EV space. So if these relationships fall apart, the effects could be huge. To put it all in context, CATL's clout in the battery sector goes way beyond raw figures. They set the bar for innovation and technology, which helps make electric vehicles more affordable. This shift is what drives the global push for cleaner transportation. So, when the US blacklists CATL, it's worth asking if we're really prepared to isolate ourselves from a supplier that's so critical, especially since other options might be less advanced or more expensive. I see this blacklisting of CATL as part of a bigger pattern to counter China's global growth. From tariffs to tech restrictions, the US has been tightening its stance on Chinese entities. Throwing CATL onto the blacklist just ramps things up between the world's two largest economies. However, unlike the old Cold War with the Soviet Union, China is woven into today's global trade networks. CATL alone controls more than 37% of global battery shipments in 2024. Cutting ties with a powerhouse like that isn't just a political maneuver. It disrupts supply lines that are vital to entire industries. Try picturing the automotive industry as a giant puzzle. Each supplier, automaker, and tech partner has to fit perfectly for everything to run smoothly. By blacklisting CATL, the US is effectively removing a major puzzle piece. The ripple effects won't just stop at EVs, they'll also hit areas like energy storage and renewable initiatives that rely on high-performance batteries. CATL didn't become the battery leader by accident. They build some of the most cutting-edge and budget-friendly batteries out there, which lets car makers lower their EV prices and boost performance. For US brands like Tesla and Ford, teaming up with CATL isn't just a casual choice, it's practically indispensable. Ford, for instance, had announced a plan to license CATL's battery tech for a factory in Michigan. This deal was supposed to create American jobs and keep manufacturing costs in check. But now, with CATL on the blacklist, all of that is in jeopardy. Car companies might have to scramble to find different suppliers, likely at a higher price and with less impressive tech. And then there's the consumer angle. I know a lot of people are waiting for EVs to become more affordable. CATL's role has been game-changing, helping to drive down battery costs so more people can consider making the switch to electric. But if US automakers have to switch to pricier, less efficient options, the sticker price of EVs goes up, and the dream of widespread EV adoption could slip further away. Remember, any cost increase for automakers typically ends up in the final price tag for buyers. EVs are already a serious financial commitment for a lot of folks. If prices climb higher, that could slow US adoption rates, just when we're trying to accelerate our clean energy goals. Let's also not forget the environmental angle. EVs play a huge role in the fight against climate change. Any delays in rolling them out at scale could set back efforts to reduce emissions, both here and internationally. By putting the brakes on CATL, the US might be hindering broader sustainability initiatives, which is a lose-lose in my book. You might wonder, Why not just lean on American battery manufacturers? The reality is, the US doesn't have a big footprint in the worldwide battery landscape. There isn't a single American company that cracks the top 20 battery producers. China and South Korea rule the roost, holding more than 90% of the global market. Sure, I'm aware of emerging players like QuantumScape and Solid Power in the US. They're researching promising next-gen tech, but they're still nowhere near CATL's scale. It could take us years, or even decades, to build a robust battery industry at home. Until that happens, we're heavily reliant on suppliers like CATL, which leaves us in a vulnerable spot. By sidelining CATL, the US opens a gap it can't immediately fill. And this is not just about market share, it's about the very real possibility of losing ground in a vital race for innovation and economic leadership. If we're serious about cutting our dependence on foreign suppliers, we need to pump serious investment into our own battery sector. But that's a long-term play, not something we can fix overnight. On paper, blacklisting CATL might look like a protective measure, but I see it triggering a bunch of new issues. By severing ties with a crucial supplier, we risk slowing down our own EV rollout. Car makers will face supply chain hiccups, increased costs, and production delays, all of which can hurt their global competitiveness. Meanwhile, other countries are happy to collaborate with CATL. In places like Australia, Thailand, and the UK, CATL's partnerships are lowering EV costs and boosting availability. By turning away from CATL, the US might be missing out on those same benefits. And it's not just about electric cars. CATL's battery technology is a game changer in energy storage solutions too, which are key for managing renewable energy sources. Restricting access to CATL's batteries could set back our progress in green energy projects, underscoring how interconnected everything is in today's tech landscape. This also throws a spotlight on a bigger theme. The US really needs to ramp up its own battery manufacturing if it wants to steer clear of geopolitical squabbles. Without solid domestic production, we'll keep having these vulnerabilities, where one political decision can upset a whole sector of our economy. Let's pan out for a moment. CATL's impact isn't confined to just making batteries. They're helping shape the future of transportation itself. By driving innovation that's made EVs increasingly practical, CATL has sped up our global pivot from fossil fuels. Cutting ourselves off from such a major force risks slowing down that momentum. Just imagine if the US worked hand in hand with CATL. We'd have cheaper EVs, advanced battery tech, and faster adoption rates overall. Instead, the blacklist scenario introduces uncertainty, forcing automakers to hunt for alternative solutions that likely won't match CATL standards. Plus, there's the matter of energy independence. High-capacity batteries are at the heart of reducing reliance on oil and gas, and they're crucial for expanding clean energy. By sidelining CATL, we're putting up another obstacle to realizing those ambitions. Blacklisting CATL might make for a strong headline, but it also sets off a chain reaction with far-reaching consequences. It has the potential to disrupt the EV landscape, drive up consumer prices, and hamper our pursuit of a more sustainable future. Instead of cutting ourselves off, maybe we should look for a middle ground that addresses security concerns while still acknowledging economic and environmental realities. What do you think? Did we make the right call, or are we making a costly mistake here? Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and if you found this breakdown useful, feel free to hit that like button and share it with anyone who's curious about EVs or energy policy. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll catch you in the next one.